Wow. Hey, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. How you guys doing on this Thursday? Doors Day, huh? Doors Day, huh? Jueves. Jueves is like Jupiter. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for taking the time to be here. Appreciate you guys doing that always. Today we're just gonna continue reading a book we've been reading for a while. We're gonna see when the last time we actually read it, but yeah, we've gotten a lot of the drop and a lot of the chapters of the book. We're gonna show you that book today, and we're gonna get into a specific chapter. You know, I'm gonna show you that right now. Let me just go ahead and show you the playlist. All right, so if you go to my homepage and you go to my playlist tab, you'll be able to see one of the playlists is called Secret Cities of Ancient South America. And we got, 5 previous parts. And again, today would be like part 6 of this reading installment. All right. A lot of good drop. We got a lot of good drop, actually. A lot of good drop. So-called Black inhabitants of the Amazon. Ancient land of Haiti, Atlantis, High Brazil. Ancient glyphs of Atlantis, riddles in the rock. Origins in ancient America more than Greek fables. We're talking about the Amazonian women, warriors. We're just talking about the mystery of El Dorado and Grand Paititi and the Atlanteans. All right. Cool, cool. Hope you guys enjoyed today's reading as well. And again, this is the book Secret Cities of Old South America by Harold T. Wilkins. All right. So we're gonna go to chapter 6 of this book. And it's called Monstrous Beasts of the Unexplored Swamps and Wilds. All right. So hopefully everybody can hear me good. And it says here, the first great waters came. They engulfed the 7 islands. Atlantis. All the unholy necromancers and militarists were annihilated. And with them, most of the huge animals, born of the sweat of the earth, the huge animals, huh? That's supposedly from number 46 stanza of archaic and secret records of old Asia. Old Asia, huh? Asia Major, huh? There are tracks of strange beasts, huge and unrecognized in the mud of the beaches of these lakes behind the unknown forest of the Bolivian caupolican. From Colonel P.H. Fawcett, lecturing before the Royal Geographic Society in London, 1911, when he had among his audience the late Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who subsequently wrote his novel, The Lost World. All right, where he got his ideas from. And he actually did travel also to the area of Mount Roraima, that guy. So we might have to read, we might have to do this in parts as chapters, a very long chapter, but we'll try to get as much as we can today. We're going to just surf the wave. All right. It says the reader will note that I have italicized the word most in the first quotation cited above. It is for a reason applicable both to Africa's dark places and to mysterious South America, which concerns us here, and especially to the blank space on the map, denoting that unknown region ranging from modern northwest Bolivia and the Rio Roosevelt across the Roosevelt Plateau of central Brazil to the Goiás Plateau, located in what are the ancient highlands of High Brazilian Atlantis in modern Brazil. High Brazil, the mythical legends coming out of the British Isles, right? The caupolican to which Fawcett refers above is a region of dense and unexplored swamps and forests of almost Mesozoic character. Its impenetrable forests, indeed, as I said, supra, are perhaps less known today than they were in the days of Inca Topo Yupanqui, by the fiercest and most unpassable Indians, and is made the more inaccessible by what the Indians remember today of the Putumayo, rubber atrocities, whose lessons they have applied in a way not encouraging to modern explorers. Let us give a glance at this strange region of the earth. The Caupolicán is located east of the Andean Cordilleras in northwest Bolivia. I referred to it in my book, Mysteries of Ancient South America, which we actually read that book, guys. Okay, completely. All right. And well, not completely. We read a lot of parts of it, right? But so get that series, just exactly that name, in relation to the lost white race. All right. So Dr. Hyja with his lost white, so-called white race. They all do this, all these Atlantis researchers. All right. Said the Indians, however, Malos, they may be shunned any penetration of this region of the unknown and bar of European explorers from it. It is bounded by the Rio Madeira and Rio Beni. Beni, huh? Draining a triangle of around 35,000 square miles in area. When the Andes were born in the gigantic throes of Tellurian and cataclysmic disturbances, it was into this region that their drained waters which turned into a vast swamp. The Inca Emperor Yupanqui of the pre-conquest age crossed the Andes with 40,000 fighting men of the Orejones type. Orejones, huh? Oregones. His plan was to subdue the warlike Chunchos in a day, when in faraway England, Henry VI, the monkish king, was founding the College of Eton by Windsor for those poor and needy scholars who have never been seen there from that day to this. The Inca built 2 fortresses and enduring stone, but the forests have long since covered them up. And to this mid-20th century day, AD, they cannot be traced. He linked them with fine military roads, as good as anything the Roman legionaries built in Britain or any part of their empire. But the road and vestiges of an aqueduct lie also shrouded in immense forests, somewhere on the trail to San Jose. On the fringe of this lost world lie rubber concessions connected with the infamous Putumayo atrocities. But the dangerous Guaraya Indios do not encourage either Europeans or Latin Americans to venture beyond the fringe of forest villages well outside the Guaraya territory. Somewhere no European man or Roman adventurer has ever been and returned alive to tell the tale, and far behind a screen of forest and swamp that lines the still unexplored rivers is the home of mysterious beings of whom vague but strange rumors have drifted into the rubber collecting outposts of northwest Bolivia. The forest Indians fervently believe in the existence of these mysterious beings, but they hold them in such fear and awe that no Indian will venture into the forest beyond the riverine belt or agree to act as guide to a white expedition. No bribe that can be offered will tempt one Indian to break what amounts to a taboo. The old gods of the South American shades have spoken, and no Indian or Indianista will dare to invade the Inferno Verde, which is the anteroom to the lost world, all right? The Inferno Verde, or the Green Hell. Talking about the forest. Maybe someday in a sanner age, a post-war type of airship or long-range cruiser aeroplane may cruise over this vast and dangerous territory. But there is no safe landing ground should the aircraft be forced down in the attempts to roll up the veil which hides these mysterious of thousands of years the future may see. All right. So again, he's writing this when what? Airships or aircrafts are A common thing maybe to see. Fawcett, when he was delimiting the boundaries of this unknown territory, as far back as 1910, called it an abominable forest, dripping with moisture, the home of malaria and deadly diseases of an obscure South American type, unknown to institutes of tropical medicine. No organized expedition has got beyond the fringes since the Incas. Fawcett was head of the Bolivian Boundary Commission and had navigated rivers close to explorers for at least 5 centuries. He was accompanied by 3 British citizens: James Murray, scientist of Sir Ernest Shackleton's Antarctic expeditions, Corporal Costin of the Rifle Brigade, and Mr. Manley. The 2 last men were stricken down with grave illness at the time when Fawcett, as valiant and hardy as one of the old Spanish conquistadores or a Roman banderista of old Sao Paulo, was trying to penetrate farther into these vast, dank regions where beastly insects beset the traveler. One of these insects, a species of maggot called the sututus, infected James Murray, the scientist, and he had to be hurried out of the forest to save his life. For many weeks he lay hovering between life and death in a small Indian village where was located one of the food depots of the Boundary Commission. And it be noted, of all the lands that are most difficult or impossible to live on, this is probably the world's worst, save the Antarctic, all right? The Amazon, these thick rainforests, some parts of Costa Rica, like rainforests here, like the guy from Discovery Channel came here, he couldn't survive. They had to get the helicopters. So like, that's what they're talking about. This parts in the Amazon, nobody can survive. All right. One of the worst places to be at for a human. Even Fawcett found it hard to endure the hardships and at last was forced to abandon his project. It is plain, therefore, that this part of South America is no land for old school Thai expeditions of the type whose members potter about. The civilized regions at a safe distance from the edge of the dangerous unknown and babble a lot of nonsense about the exaggerated dangers of the South American wilderness. If Fawcett found the going hard, much worse so would the gilded amateur or any writer of Baron Munchausen tales at the first sight of the smoke fires of Indios Malos. Such heroes are pretty sure to make tracks for the avenidas of Rio Janeiro or Buenos Aires and tell the world that they cannot tell whether to bring in a verdict of murder or suicide in the case of the Puka explorers who have ventured into the unknown. I name no names here, lest an old Etonian be peeved. All right. While Fawcett was trying to get beyond the dangerous swamps which fringed the rivers, threading their mostly unknown way through the immense forest, Indians told him they had seen strange footsteps of unknown animals of prehistoric size and stature in the mud and silt on the beaches of these marshes. They seemed to be animals of antediluvian type. There were also strange flora and strange, elusive men whom none could contact. All right, so be ready to dodge the hijack, right? So they had their, so-called white stuff, the crayon color stuff, right? Check out my video from yesterday. That's all status too, a lot of it. I have hinted at the romances which await the explorer if he will leave the rivers and get away from the rubber districts into the more remote forests. They are not exaggerated. There are strange beasts and weird insects for the naturalist, and reason, at any rate, for not condemning as a myth the existence of mysterious so-called white Indians, or just mysterious Indians. There are rumors of forest pygmies and old ruins. Nearer civilization there are lost mines, tracts of strange beasts, huge and unrecognized. Nothing whatever is known of the country a few hundred yards from the riverbanks. I could tickle the appetite of the romantic with more, but it is not definite enough to warrant curtain a reputation for travelers' tales from the incredulous folk who sit at home and think they know all that is to be known about the world. Ha, silly, Silly humans of the world, he says. Listening to this lecture of Colonel Fawcett delivered before the Royal Geographic Society in London in 1911, right? This is what they're doing. They're amplifying themselves like, oh, this ancient so-called white Indians of Atlantis, High Brazil, and everywhere else, right? Either way, this is what they're doing in the Royal Geographical Society. As I must be forgiven for reiterating, was the late Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. It inspired him to write his Lost World novel of the adventures of Professor Challenger, which are set in this very region. Okay? Mount Roraima region. Here seems the place to interject a natural query, which the reader may make. Was Homo sapiens a contemporary of these monsters, of the antediluvian, slime, hot swamps, and wilderness? The orthodox ethnologist, biologist, and encyclopedic historian of the type of H.G. Wells is perhaps a little too confident and dogmatic in affirming that he was not. But curious antiquities in South America and ancient traditions in China and India suggest that perhaps one may have to revise one's ideas of the age of man on the earth. Okay? That he may even have existed in the latter tertiary age. A variety of extremely ancient myths and traditions of races, both known and unknown, may be euhemerized, if that's how you say it, as implying that antediluvian man, a giant in stature, may have, in some cases, fought with and even tamed some of these monsters. And this is in South America, right? In various parts of South America of the megalithic age, some of these memories of strange animals and monstrous extinct species seem to have been recorded and crystallized in weathered stone. In page 91 of my Mysteries of Ancient South America, I reproduce a picture of an unknown and extinct animal whose image was found hidden in a cavern or catacomb, and that strange mausoleum whose ancient name was not survived in a garbled form of primitive myth. Easter Island, probably an outpost of the gigantic and brutal race of Mu, or Mu'a, that drowned Pacific continent known as Rutas in the ancient legends of Hindustan. All right, connected to the Americas, like I be trying to tell you. The same animal is pictured on very ancient ceramics dug up at Trujillo in northern Peru, to which the empire of Mu may have extended. To which what? The empire of Mu extended where? Into Peru. Who? Mu, ancient Mu, right? Like I said, part of ancient America, so-called Atlantis, to which the empire Mu may have extended in some day more than 60,000 years ago, all right? May have. It has a cat-like face, long body, arms, and legs. It looks like a strange marine animal. At Manabi in Ecuador, the seat of another unknown race of the megalithic age, the same or a similar monster is found engraved on a bas-relief and is complete with 8 octopoid arms emerging from its cat-like head. Not far from Manabi is another place called Manta, where some years back bones of giant men and women, again, bones of what? Giant men and women, just like in North America, giant men and women, I told you, all over the Americas. He says, not dinosaurs or saurians. We're talking about men. He's like, not reptiles, right? Were dug up or found in caves of immense age, judged by the stalagmites and stalactites in them. That's how they determine how old those bones were in there. The finders were making a railroad track also in the patio of some business premises in the same pueblo of Manta. Are 2 very singular sculptures of monstrous extinct animals of unknown species with long necks and parts of a body. All right, are we just talking about a drakon? Dragons? These sculptures were taken from ruins of immense age of some megalithic race unknown, who are standing puzzled to it, archaeologists, and about whom I shall have something to say presently in this chapter and in a later book. They are people of the Manabi culture, right? We're talking about in Ecuador right there. It says old medals and cabinets of collectors of classic antiquities in the 16th or 17th or 18th centuries In Europe, they picked the Titans, who stormed the gods on Olympus in the Greek myths as half men, half reptiles, huh? Now remember the Titans, huh? Remember the Titans, huh? I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about that book we read, Researches into the Lost History of America, right? All those Greek myths and all that. They were just talking about real people, real things, real stories, real locations, geographical locations of in the Americas. Northern mythologies also suppose that the giants were half men, half reptile, semi-saurians who struggled against the gods, or men of a higher intellectual stature. It may be recalled that the Gorgons, ruled by the Medusa, sight of whose face turned men to stone, were also ruled by a matriarchate of coarse and sensual women who used for weapons the skins of enormous reptiles, swarming and pullulating in the hot total African swamps. Chinese mythology tells us that in the 10 ages of the Qi, after the creation, men lived in caves and climbed trees, while struggling with monsters who had the face of men and bodies of serpents. Now that reminds me, are they talking about when mountains were trees? When the trees were the mountains, huh? Before they got cut down, that type of tree, right? So struggling with monsters who had the face of men and bodies of serpents and who rode dragons. All right, which sounds like a tame dinosaur used as a horse. No, it's a dragon, man. Fairy stories, no doubt, calculated to make the scientific historian smile in his beard. Other ancient myths imply that the seas swarmed with saurians who emerged on the beaches and attacked from the swamps, fens, and reedy lakes of enormous expanse, all steamy with heat. They attacked anthroposaurians who had taken refuge in the mountains. A frightful battle raged between monsters of the land and the sea. This is what they talk about, like legends, stories of what they're hearing here in the Amazon, ancient South America, and also what they're drawing in the walls, right? What they're inscribing on the stone. Talking about people riding dragons, right? Yeah. The gods of Cataclysm intervened. Volcanism was unchained and changed the face of the earth. A collision with some celestial body, huh? We're talking about a meteor, a prester, a celestial body, huh? A collision, okay. The axis of the earth to topple, huh? We're talking about spinning on a ball, dodge the hijack, all right, and catastrophically altered the lush warm conditions to an ice age. Bode's theory, formulated into a law at the end of the 18th century, might suggest that some planetoid, might suggest, dodge the hijack, formed one of the asteroids that are the remains of a missing planet disrupted by some cosmic body interposing itself between Mars and Jupiter, came near the Earth. Hey, that's the same Nibiru talk. That's the same Zechariah Sitchin. I already know where he's going with this. I already know where he's getting it from. All right. Dodge the hijack on the space talk. All right. Either way, we pull out the babies and we're ready to just keep it moving with the hijack. So he's talking about gravitational pull and the gray star Earth, and yeah, it hit us. Then I get it. So it says our moon may have done the mischief. Another theory, okay, well at least he admits it's a theory. Another theory is that the animal species were involved. The cave bear, cave lion, reindeer, wolf, dog, and bison, and man have spiritually and have mentally developed at the time of a collision of a comet with the Earth, collision with a cometa, a dracan. This, if it did not fall on our planet, deflected its actual spin, so that the pole, okay, and equator gradually changed places, and glaciation set it for a cycle of some 30,000 years. All right, let's get back to what you're finding on the ground here in the forest. All right. Either way, let's go. So the spinning of the earth regains. That's the hijack. We ain't spinning. Okay, so he's saying it's sat upright. My guess is almost as good as yours. One may say to be skeptical astrophysicists. Yeah. So let's say the old Hindus had records received based on ancient ancestral memories of what happened on the earth at the time of the Great Cataclysm. They say it was at the end of the second age of 2 million years. Whether the cataclysm was caused by an impact with a great comet or a vast aerolite such as may have been thrown, maybe, it maybe happened this way, I don't know, maybe it was like this, So they're describing different ages, right? Different like resets. Nobody's talking about no meteors. You get what I'm saying? Or if we are, then what type of meteor? Because whether the cataclysm was caused by impact with a great comet, we don't know. Whether the cataclysm was caused by impact with a great comet and blah, blah, blah. Says one theory is almost as good as another. Hey, we just theorizing all day in relation to the causation. All right, and just say some big words and it all makes sense. These Oriental myths say that the early earth was covered with clay, water and mud, and islets and warm seas, pullulating with great saurians and enormous reptiles. Enormous reptiles, huh? These myths say that when the earth froze at the poles, it formed in contraposition with the equatorial swamps, mountains that sheltered by their situation emitted a dense and cloudy atmosphere. There, the enormous reptiles degenerated, losing strength and ferocity, while on the other hand, the mammals progressed. All right, this is all their theories right here. Let's keep reading though. It says the ancient lands under the archaic seas were alive and swarming with monstrous saurians and reptiles, while according to these ancient myths, the summits and slopes and valleys of the mountains were alive with mammals. On the one side, the anthroposaurians from the wide plains bordering the early lakes and shallow seas arranged themselves in battle and mounted on tame dinosaurs. Tame dinosaurs, huh? Or dracons, confronted a higher and more intelligent race of men who made up the lack of girth and muscle and brain power and intellect. All right, so unfortunately, we don't have the original version of the story that he's supposedly getting, or these legends from the local people, to see if they're literally saying dinosaur, or is that what he's interpreting? You get what I'm saying? But we just reading along, right? We just surfing the wave. Then came tremendous battles. The saurians remained masters of the ancient seas and swamps and of the enormous lakes. In the meantime, the anthroposaurians, occurring in the Greek and Roman myths as hydras, chimeras, mandragons, tritons, and so forth, ascended to the mountains where again terrible battles raged. In the old myths, we are told that these titanic monsters were struck with thunderbolts, which perhaps may mean that the godmen of the uplands had command of weapons using some ray or electrical force. For it must not be too hastily supposed that only our own era has devised mechanism and applied scientific law to the end of using natural forces. All right, that's true. Then while below on the plains and in the warm seas, the plesiosaurus and the ichthyosaurus paddled the waters and mounted the rocks, aloft monsters men and god men. God men, monster men and god men, were locked in titanic conflict in the mountains, the mountains with the mountains were trees. In the middle of the combat, the earth heaved to its foundations. The summits of the mountains split and vomited fire and gases, and all the pent-up forces of volcanism and flood conspired together to change the face of our world. The fair Hyperborean land of Proserpina, said in the old world myth to be the first place on the earth, with viable conditions, had before the great cataclysm radically altered warm temperate conditions in the far north to their present Arctic climate, a very general climate, with 2 crops a year of fertile land and many luscious fruits that needed no cultivation by man. Its climate was temperate in relation to the torrid conditions elsewhere on the globe, all right? Yep, that sounds like America. That's what I'm saying, all these mythical lands. And that's, I think, why is he bringing this up? The ancient giant men of America, again, the ancient giant men of America, shown on petroglyphs as attacking or attacked by monster animals, are graphically described in ancient Asian documents. So the ancient documents and stories are telling a story of what's happening In the Americas, the Titans, huh? Fighting the large monsters, huh? Greek myths, huh? As gigantic stature between 12 and 15 feet tall. Just like the bones they're finding in the mounds, huh? Just like the bones they're finding in the mounds, right? Haven't we gone over how many reports of 12 footers, even 15 footers, 10 footers? Says their skin was dark. Uh-oh. Yeah, of an almond color and tawny. You know, we can't make this up. Body bag for the illusions. What you talking about, white Indians? The skin was dark of an almond color, copper colored tribe of America. Their lower jaw bones prominent, their countenance oddly flattened, their eyes small but penetrating, and very widely apart. They had no forehead, what? But an extraordinary mass of flesh bulged out, and the head was a very much retreating slant, while round and about it was a reptilian skin. Say, what? With extraordinary reflections as the light shone on it. Dracons, huh? What you talking about, man? The legs and arms above all proportionally very long, much longer than those of the modern man. Their hands and feet and heels were very pronounced. From the back and on the shoulders hung a skin like that of the rhinoceros, but very scaly, like the hide of a sauron. All right, so now they're getting deep with the myth of the stories he's getting, supposedly, right? This race lived with the dinosaurs and saurians and appeared to have ruled over and enslaved them. In the right hand, these monsters' men carried a war club, and in the left, held and leashed by a cord made of strong vegetable fiber, was an enormous and repulsive reptile that rendered them the service of falcon in the chase. The reader may recall that I said that a strange and ancient statue of Viracochas, seen by the old Spanish conquistadors in old Peru, depicted this very tall culture hero and holding a monster animal by a leash. A dim memory of such a great cataclysm was symbolized by the head of an unknown and very sinister-looking evil monster which was given to the former godman, or king of old Hyperborea, who was called Set. This Set, our own Satan, he's saying, or the Egyptian Thoth, all right, the hijacks of hijacks, like, man, oh man, we'll keep getting into that in future videos. And the Tahitian Thoth, same, or Ta, or Tat, retreated into the twilight world of damned men or man gods, right? The underworld, Anubis is Hermanubis is Thoth, becoming Typhoon of old Egypt, or the same Typhoon of the old Mexican pantheon, a god of cataclysm, hurricanes, and typhoons and raging waters, just the same. In the ancient Mexican pantheon, the god Tezcatlipoca was represented by the head of an unknown monster. The monstrous fauna of old Mu, the great Pacific four-island continent which had colonies in North and South Central America, like I've been telling you, it is part of America, presents a weird world of life, red in tooth and claw, and wallowing in the slime of beaches, or prowling and preying in the antediluvian forests and deep jungles of that strange land. Ancient lore says that old Mu had huge hunting dogs, somewhat like a heavily built saluki, the old Arabian gazelle hound. But these dogs were as large as horses, and used for hunting and for tracking captive escapees, often horridly tortured and skinned alive by obsidian knives wielded by the gorilla Muons, who were wardens of one of the prison islands of this queer continent. The cats of Mu were as large as pumas, but not tame, and were used to kill vermin by very tall, dark-skinned and low-browed and heavy-featured Lemurians, huh? Dark-skinned Lemurians, huh? Dark-skinned Lemurians, huh? They, the men of Mu, were from 10 to 15 feet tall. Huh, like the ones on the mounds, huh? Had large fleshy noses, square jaws, and huge knotted shoulders like a Congo gorilla. Wow, man. See, this is a lot of the, their prejudice, stereotypic views start spilling out when they're writing this, Wow. How do they know what these people look like? Like, wow. In the great forest of Old Mu, there lived another huge monster that was never seen and heard crashing through the dense jungles only occasionally. The headman often ordered that children not valued in Old Mu be taken to the forest and left there on great stones that were rounded and like very large drums. There the abandoned girls were to be eaten by the unseen monster. Wow. Which seems to purport that he was deemed to be worth placating with human sacrifices. A small type of mastodon was also used for hunting in Mu. A small type of mastodon, right? You're riding with elephants? Yeah. Ancient and very curious myths current in the North Pacific say that Old Mu had queer quadrupeds that possessed bat-like wings and could fly. Ah, a dracan? These queer animals were about the size of a large sheep, but more or less harmless. A griffin were about the size of but more like harmless and lived in the trees. There were also flying serpents. Oh, a seraphim. You mean a flying fiery serpent? A seraphim around 4 feet long, and they had 3 pairs of wings on their back ridges. 3 pairs, like Ezekiel's describing. What you talking about, man? What you talking about? The trees of the great forest of Mu harbored giant serpents and were festooned with a beautiful white and red creeper that oozed a sap the color of blood when cut. The dinosaurs and mastodons of Mu fed on species of mimosa. The dracons and the mastodons. The dinosaurs were amphibious and resembled a distorted huge crocodile with longer legs. Huh, you mean a dragon then? Okay, and had their habitat in great marshes or on land bordered by sedgy lakes. When in the course of ages, Old Mu, which is folk held to be the motherland of the world, albeit in old Asia, there also existed older civilizations still began to be disturbed by eruptions and increasing volcanisms. The seas around became sulfur-colored and, for many months at a time, the killed fish exhaled a horrible stench. Immense squids and monstrous cephalopods of devilish ferocity would come ashore on the beaches of Mu's great islands, and even carried off adult folk to 10 to 15 feet high, but they usually preferred as food the huge dogs and cats of Mu. Now and again, terrific combats raged between sea monsters and devil fishes, who came on the beaches and disputed each other's conquests. There was also a saurian or dinosaur that resembled the plesiosaurus, but they were not usually aggressive, though. When enraged, they exhibited enormous power. It was not a healthy pastime for any 10-foot Muan boy, all right, to tease one of these monsters, all right? A 10-footer Lemurian, dark-skinned Lemurian facing a Dracan, huh? Hey, don't think about it. The myths say that these plesiosauri bred in mountain caves on the Muan Islands. Muan Islands, huh? A monstrous orchid grew in the forests of Mu, and its waves resembled those of a devil tree, said to be found in out-of-the-way paths deep in the forests of the Amazon and in the Chaco wilderness in the northern Argentine of today. The orchid was very poisonous, and if a Lemurian ventured near it, its tentacles would catch him by a leg or arm and sear the flesh. So virulent was its poison that death was certain, for the Muans never found an antidote for its poison. Old Mu was in many ways not an idyllic land as these glances as it show, and more than one cataclysm shook and disrupted it in the course of its very long history. Talking about water world, that's what I'm talking about here. Yeah, drop nation, let's go. Whether or no the ice ages and glaciation spelled the doom of monstrous saurians and animals all over the globe, dracons all over the globe, and this chapter suggests that probably some escaped in the deeps of the sea or in southern swamps and recesses of the land where neither ice glaciated nor over which the waters of the deluge rolled. Curious memorials of these monsters of the antediluvian age are found in South America. Basler dug up a piece of statuary in Chimbote, northern Peru, which depicts a flying dragon. All right. Again, Basler dug up a piece of the statuary in Chimbote, northern Peru, of a flying dragon. A flying dragon. Two other monsters pictured in extremely ancient ceramics of an unknown prehistoric race in the same region of Chimbote are one of a sea serpent of exactly the same sort as has been described by skippers of sailing ships in the 19th century and commanders of submarines in this. That is, a sea monster of unknown marine biological species, huh? Are we talking about Leviathan? Leviathan, huh? Still talking about a Dracan. With camel-like head, a camel-like head, huh? Like a whole, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, now definitely talking about Leviathan. Toothed jaws, scaly columbian body and great length. The other is of a roaring flying dragon. A roaring flying dragon. All right. With mailed body and human legs and arms. What? A flying dragon with what? With a mailed body and human legs and arms, holding up the hair of a human's head. What? Which the monster clutches in his right hand. A third flying dragon of Chimbote had a hippine head, mailed body, armored tail, and human legs, and grabs shield and weapons in his right hand. Maybe this is not totally a fantasy of a pre-Inca artist of Chimbote, but embodied some far-off ancestral memory. Quien sabe? Quien sabe means who knows, right? You guys hearing this? Wow. The earliest story of the encounter of a European with a strange, unknown monster of the South American wilderness occurs in the travels of John Lerius or the Deleri, a Frenchman who lived in Brazil with Mons Villagagon and 1557 and 58. Lerius was wandering in a wood with two Frenchmen. They were somewhere in the country of the Tupi-Namba Indians, the Tupi Indians, huh? Which many of these Tupi got enslaved and sent to Africa in colonial times. We had with us no hand-gun, but only our swords. We had not barbarians to guide us, and therefore wandered in the woods and passed through a deep valley, hearing the noise of a certain beast coming toward us, supposing it to be some timorous and harmless wild beast. Notwithstanding, proceeding on our intended journey, we were secure and quiet in mind. But presently, 30 paces distant almost from us, on the right hand, we saw a lizard on a hill, bigger than the body of a man and 5 or 6 foot long. He, being spread all over the white and rough scales like oyster shells, holding up one of his 4 feet with his head aloft and shining eyes, began to behold us. Wherefore, being astonished, we had one lie our swords at our sides, and bows and arrows, which weapons could not greatly hurt that monster. Armed with such hard scales, nevertheless, fearing lest if we shifted for ourselves by flight, being swifter than we, he would dispatch us altogether. When one fearfully beheld the other, we stood still in the same places, but after that prodigious fearful lizard had beheld us a quarter of an hour with open mouth, and because it was exceedingly hot weather, for it was a clear day, almost at noon, fetching a deep groan, that we might easily hear it. Upon a so deigned, he went unto the top of the mountain, with so great noise of the clashing and breaking of twigs and boughs, as a deer running through the wood would scarce have made. We, therefore, who were very much affrighted, not being very careful to pursue him, gave thanks unto God and pursued our intended journey, and embracing their opinion, who affirmed that the lizard is delighted with the sight of a man. It seemed to me that the beholding of us pleased that monster so much as we were tormented through his presence. It's a funny story, huh? Crazy, right? What are they really seeing? This almost reminds me of, where they get in their little ideas for Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, right? These dinosaurs in the jungles, Some might smile and suggest that the monster was a Hakare or Cayman, but the description of the Larry does not fit with that theory. Moreover, Caymans do not climb mountain tops and break away through forests in the manner of some saurian of the ages of Mesozoic coal swamps. Today one is less inclined than one would have been in the days of the cocksure Ben Jowett, master of Balliol, to dismiss this story with an indulgent smile and a reference to poor Louis de Rougemont. Men who have been into the unknowns, Sertão of the Brazilian wilderness, or have ventured into the sinister Mato Grosso Caatinga, are not so sure on these points as, say, a fellow sitting in a padded chair in Piccadilly Club, who jeeringly demands to know why such a monster cannot be found in a Tiergarten or the London Zoological Gardens. Even professors of zoology and fellows of zoological societies have not plumbed every mystery of the wilds, and less so of South America than any other continent. There's parts of South America nobody has ever gone into, guys, ever, still. To all such skeptics, we would say, remember the Komodo dragon. It was only the accident of a complaint poured into the ears of a Dutch official by natives imprisoned on that queer, prehistoric lumber room of an East Indian island not many years back that revealed to European and American zoologists the existence of that great saurian lizard, and one knows of an equally strange haunted island lying north of the Philippines in the Bashi Channel, which fishermen shun partly by reason of the unpleasant habits of a flying reptile, unknown to modern herpetologists, which is a blood brother to the pterodactyl. Halal. Wow. Hey, thank you, Nitsa. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Native legends in Colombia, the old Nueva Granada of the Spanish colonial age say that the old wise man in black, Bochica, the Quetzalcoatl of that land, of the ancient Moscas or Muiscas, was accompanied by certain strange, unknown, and bulky animals. When he came to that country from the east, he came with his dracan, across the great Andean Cordillera, bringing the arts of civilization and teaching laws to savages. Who knows what animals these were? The early Spanish padres thought they were mastodons. The double-headed eagle found on ancient stones in both Old Mexico and Chile. A double-headed eagle, right? Like the Habsburgs? America's a true old world was actually something more veridical and factual in the zoological and teratological sense than, say, a heraldic wyvern or griffin. In the days when the Marqués de Vallejo was viceroy of Nueva España or Mexico, he found in some ancient tomb near Mexico City 2 embalmed heads of double-headed eagles, which he gave to the Monasterio del Escorial in Old Spain, with a statement that he had found these eagles in Old Mexico. There is another enigmatic figure on an ancient stone monument found at Coaquelchuli, near Atlisco, Mexico. It carries on the back a coat of arms and has 2 curved claws like hooks. It may have been merely a heraldic animal, say like the Old English, a wyvern of armorial bearings, but it also vividly suggests a species of unknown marine monster, being cut in a hard veined stone of various colors, while close by, an ancient figure on a boulder looks towards the town, with some suggestion of having served a purpose like that of the ancient Roman terminus or boundary stone. At Atitlan, now look at this word, guys, Atitlan, right? Add the Greek TIS at the end of that, right? What do you get? If you add the Greek TIS, you get Atitlantis. And there was also a town of this name in Panama and Atlanta, it's just a lot of places. So Atitlan in Guatemala is another monstrosity carved on a big boulder. It takes the form of a cat with a sort of ruff at his throat, which points to the east. On the top of the boulder is a basin, but what purpose this cavity served, unless to hold a human victim's sacrificial blood, is unknown. The American traveler J. Lloyd Stevens, when in Central America in 1838, noted the ancient ruins of mysterious race called the Moms, located close to Huehuetenango in Guatemala. Huehuetenango, Teplan, Huehuetenango in Guatemala, at a point where a river runs through a wild ravine. He saw where the banks had been washed away at high water, and here had been found the skeleton of some mysterious animal of extraordinary size. Stephen saw one on the bank, and the imprints were from 25 to 30 feet long. Others were still larger. But even more amazing evidence of the connection and contemporaneity of tertiary man in USA with so-called dinosaurs or dracons is found in the states of California and Arizona. The high plateau of Utah, Nevada, and Arizona are along with the Roosevelt-Goyas Plateau in central Brazil and their Asiatic counterparts in the Siberian provinces of Yakush and Irkutsk, the oldest parts of the earth. Say what? Again, listen to what he just said. We know, the real oldest one, but some more older ones, right? The high plateau of Utah, Nevada, and Arizona, along with the Roosevelt-Goyas Plateau in central Brazil, the oldest parts of the earth, and parts too that have not been under sea this side of an aeon of more than 50 million years. On one rock in Nevada is a petroglyph made by a very early Mongolian race, or type of Central Asiatic invader, thousands of years ago. For on it are cut glyphs identical with ideograms used in ancient China, at least 1,000 years before Confucius. So because listen to what that was his whole reasoning as to why there is a Mongolian came, because he found glyphs on stone. So he concluded, right? But again, America's a two-world world, seeing it in reverse. All right, seen in reverse. I have a copy of these petroglyphs collated with identical signs in ancient China. That doesn't mean you might be seen in reverse, Yet are these ancient glyphs merely modern in comparison with the astounding figure of most realistic character of the fearsome dinosaur Tyrannosaurus carved in the rock by an extremely ancient man of a very early American race, who must have been an eyewitness of this horrid reptile. He was also of a race of giants, or as the Indians say, a big feller, who cut through the patina of iron scale on the red sandstone face on the gorge of Supai in North Arizona. This terrible monster is shown standing erect as he must have been seen by the artist how many years ago? Why more than 1,000,000 years ago? And this pictograph is emphatically no modern fake. It was first brought to public notice by the Dahani scientific expedition to the Hawaii Supai Canyon in 1924. All right, this is stuff they hid from us, That the artist was a giant seems evident in the fact that another startling petroglyph in this canyon shows a giant man in actual combat with a mammoth. Over his head, which reaches just under the mammoth's trunk, the mammoth is shown extending his trunk. All right. And these are some drawings here. Arizona Gorge. Then we have the amazing find of a man named Jordan near Granby, Colorado. When he was excavating a garage, he uncovered at a depth of 12 feet an idol carved out of very hard green material, quite unlike anything known in the region. Other remains found suggest that here had been an extremely ancient settlement. The green stone of the idol seems to have come from some distance on it. Carved in high relief is the figure of a dinosaur and an elephant. Listen, guys, they're saying dinosaur, but could be so many other things, even a dracon. Both monsters are carved on the back of the idol. The elephant has a long curved trunk. In this connection, Professor E.L. Hewitt of Las Vegas University tells us he has found in the homes of ancient people fossil remains of mastodons and saber-toothed tigers, also utensils made out of life as distinct from fossil ivory. It may be again added that both in North and South America, artifacts have been found in conditions clearly associating them with the bones of mammoths and mastodons found with them. All right, we know this already. they were living with the mammals, like yeah, regular humans too. The Supai dinosaur petroglyphs were made by a giant man who used a sharp flint tool with which he crashed through a black over surface of iron scale on the sandstone, as I stated, and this scale renders the glyphs practically indestructible, for it would take ages to weather off. About 100 miles away, dinosaur tracks were found by Charles W. Gilmore, dinosaur tracks, paleontologist of the United States National Museum, caught on the same wall as the petroglyph of Tyrannosaurus were images of a goat-like creature and serpents and curious signs, one of which is identical with the ancient Greek sign of Mars and showing shield and spear. Iron, which tends in time to form on the surface of the sandstone, had begun to form in the furrows of the petroglyphs, which must indicate incredible antiquity. This raises the question, did ancient man live in America in the Triassic period, millions of years ago? Or did this age of the dinosaurs last into that of the mammoths? Oh, chronology, there you go. What's the so-called dinosaur? Some attempts to answer this question will be made below, but it may be said that it has been theorized that the elephant and mammoth glyphs are not as old as that of the dinosaur. Much of the Grand Canyon, Arizona, has never been explored by European men. In 3 places in this canyon, the Doheny expedition found ibex pictured on the walls, and there are pictographs of prehistoric hunters driving 7 ibex and 2 deer into a trap. All right. It is odd that up to date no ibex and not even fossil ibex have been found in America. That's what he says, right? But imagine, like, this is what they don't want people to go. This is, you can't go in the Grand Canyon. Half a mile down in the main Supai Canyon, from these wall pictures, is the strange figure of a giant woman in limestone. The Supai Indians called the figure Konda Pavish, or very big woman, long time dead. The Indians say her body was turned to stone by the action of lime and water. Beside her is a baby wrapped in skins, also petrified. The body lies 60 feet up from the floor of the gorge and is very difficult to reach as it lies in rock crevice. It is bedded into the red sandstone and shows no sign of a joint that might indicate carving. In the region known as the Badlands of Wyoming, Charles Sternberg, a paleontologist, found a mummy of a dinosaur. Listen, the Trachodon, or duck-billed genus. The Badlands, or the earlier French explorers called them Les Terres Mauvaises, extend through southwest Dakota and northwest Nebraska, and are noted for their fossil deposits. Sternberg described his discovery and shows a picture of it and his life of a fossil hunter. The American Museum of New York acquired this specimen, which has dried up flesh and skin texture. Another remarkable artifact was found in an old clearing close to the Sandy River, around 15 miles east of Portland, Oregon. It is a carving in volcanic tufa of an armored type of saurian, which resembles the Stegosaurus. The artist is of a race unknown, but must have been a man of extremely ancient nation, which in a far day lived in the region where now flows the river Columbia. The image is 3 feet long and 7 inches thick, but the legs and tail seem to be missing. Through a formidable array of teeth are in the jaws, and his back is ridged, sides armored. The artifact was found on the site of an old encampment of Red Indians, and the stone in which it is carved is very hard. Again, the question is raised, how old is man? And is it the fact that all the dinosaurs perished, as many paleontologists theorize, before the first appearance of the mammoth, the mammals, and mastodons on the earth? If the dinosaur became extinct 12 million years ago, how can the mummy found by Sternberg have lasted all that immense time in any conditions and not have fallen into dust? Also, if the skulls found by the Le Baron in that queer vault on the hill of the Thousand Tombs in the Nevada desert had turned into dust in an almost hermetically sealed tomb in very dry atmospheric conditions, how comes it that a dinosaur mummy exposed to wind, rain, snow, and frost, still remain intact. All right, that's true. Some scientists contend that the dinosaurs throve in an atmosphere consisting largely of carbonic acid gas, and that the dense flora of the Mesozoic age absorbed the carbon, releasing the oxygen, and so making conditions suitable for the mammal. I am beginning to believe, said Doheny, that a flood swept away dinosaurs that persisted into the age of mammals, and that some forms, such as the aquatic dinosaurs, were here long after man appeared. I have found tracks of a wolf on the stone edge of an area out in the painted desert where I've seen dinosaur tracks. Huh. Dr. R.L. Lowell, professor of vertebrate paleontology at Yale University, pointed out as long ago as 1917 that not a single trace of a dinosaur or its remains has or have been found in America in rocks of the Tertiary age. The elevation of the land, you guys hear that, what he's saying? The elevation of the land and the draining of the great inland Cretaceous rocks along the low-lying shores where the dinosaurs had their homes spelled their doom. The career of the dinosaurs, contrary to some folks' notions, was not brief, for the duration of their recorded evolution is thrice that of the entire mammalian age. So, we're going into theory here and a lot of, the science, but let's just keep reading. It says the dinosaur does not represent a futile attempt on the part of nature to people the world with creatures of significant moment, but the genus is comparable majestic rise, slow culmination, and dramatic fall to the great nations of antiquity. These artifacts then suggest that, as in the old continent of Mu, the dinosaur was contemporary in ancient America with the existence of a race of giant men. All right, we can agree that there was animals, bigger animals, and dracons and all that. Yeah, contemporary. From another source, one learns that in South America and Brazil, and the Andean region south of and round Lago de Titicaca, all marine formations end with the Carboniferous age, and in Brazil, later marine formations are found only in sublittoral areas. Marine beds of the Tertiary age are entirely absent. In South Brazil, the marine beds in general are little developed. Cretaceous marls here and there containing remains of dinosaurs and freshwater shells are recorded at heights of 13,123 feet in the pre-Cordilleras, nowhere between 14 degrees and 35 degrees south latitude. In the whole region of the Andes between east of Lago de Titicaca and the volcano of Tinguidica is there a Mesozoic completion of the marine series. In the Argentina, the geologic series correspond very closely with those in Brazil. From the Carboniferous to the Upper Cretaceous, no marine beds make their appearance. Through long periods, no sea existed here. A priori, then, we have possible conditions favoring the existence of monsters and dinosaurs extinct elsewhere in most parts of the earth. Before I go on to discuss evidence for the concurrent existence of antediluvian man in America and the dinosaur, I may draw attention to the other remarkable discoveries in North America. In Arizona, a monster like the pterodactyl, or an unknown species of giant flying lizard, a dracan, has been found cut in a very ancient food bowl. Another nondescript unknown monster, with a duck-like bill, is found cut in a natural sandstone concretion and fastened on a thin plate of light brown flint. The eyes are of quartz glass fastened on with some kind of cement. They gave a fierce look to the monster. This image was found by a farmer plowing into a mound at Davenport, Iowa, on the Mississippi. A prehistoric figure of an elephant was picked up by a German named Maury in a cornfield on his Iowa farm. In 1850, there was found on a cliff at Pent de Orelli Lake in Idaho and Montana brightly colored pictographs of strange beasts, of men and other images and unknown import. The Indians regarded them with great dread as the work of the race that preceded their own. Had ancient North and South America, like old China, traditions of dragons? Body bag for the illusion. All right, and we've shown this image here. We have a whole video about all the inscriptions and and drawings of elephants and man, right? It says, I mentioned above the strange resemblances of the fiery dragon, whose head is found carved on the so-called Toltec pyramid at Xochicalco, Mexico. A fiery dragon, huh? And on the stairway and balustrade of the temple of Quetzalcoatl at Teotihuacan, with a living monster said to exist today in the Gran Chaco wilderness of March and Break in Paraguay. In both Central and North America, United States of America, there have been found, as in the mounds in Florida and Georgia, shell gorgets and painted rocks with objects much like stylized dragons. They appear also in the Cortesian Codex of Old Mexico. You know, we've shown these guys, which shows the first man and woman sitting under a tree with a serpent's head near the woman, like the story of Adam and Eve, huh? Needless to say, these ancient Mexican glyphs were assuredly not borrowed from Genesis. All right? We're talking about you are the book. But no country in the world has, or rather had, so amazing a pictorial representation of the dragon as was found on a washed rock high up on a bluff at Alton, Mississippi. Listen, as Marquette, the old French traveler, said of this dragon, no painter in old France excelled this representation on the bluff at Alton. Nothing is known of the mysterious race who made this glyph, which is also found on ancient pottery, red in color and highly glazed. Schoolcraft describes monsters like this dragon, or pictographic saurian called the piasa dragon. Guys, I got a whole video on this. All right, I think it's part 1 of my history or myth series, the piasa dragon. This is what they're talking about. We have a whole video on all this stuff. You already know. The saurian. This is what they've been calling the saurians. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys. It's a dragon. The piasa dragon, as common among the Indians of the north. The dragon. Here, Marquette's description of the piasa dragon is worth giving fully. He says, all right, we're going to get it like it's the first time. As we were coasting along rocks frightful from their height and length, we saw on one of them 2 painted monsters, which at first frightened us, and near which the most hardened and valiant savages dare not linger for long. Because according to them, he's still there. The monster have eyes as big as a cow, and horns on the head like those of a roe deer. Their eyes are red. The monsters have a frightful look and a beard like a tiger's. Their faces have something of the appearance of a man. A beard and appearance of a man, huh? The body is covered with scales, and the tail is so long that it goes twice round the body, passing above the head and entering between the legs, where it terminates in a fish's tail. The colors are green, red, and blackish. Moreover, these 2 monsters are so well painted that one cannot believe that any savages can have been the artists, for the best painters in old France would have been hard put to it to draw them so well. Besides, they are so high on the rocks that it would be very difficult to reach there easily to paint them. He gives a sketch of them. All right, so that's from the manuscript formerly of Les Religieux de Hôtel de Dieu. Okay, we probably read it in my video on the Piasa dragon. The Dakota Indians had ancestral memories of the Piasa dragon, or a similar sort type of monster. They told Marquette that a demon haunted the river at this spot and roared so that he could be heard at a great distance. He would engulf them in the abyss where he dwells. They also said the waters at this weird spot had in ancient days been filled with saurians who would devour men. It is also curious that a picture of a horned man appears on the rocks at Alton, and it does not give the impression that it is a man merely wearing a mask. Alas, the great American Piasa dragon has become an extinct, as the Aipiornis or Moa of old Madagascar, or New Zealand. During the War of the North and South in the 1860s, an idiot who commanded a gunboat fired at the rocks and destroyed the splendid pictograph. Did he do that by mistake or on purpose? Listen what they're snitching on themselves right here. What was the real cause? What was they really doing in the Civil War, huh? War, of course, spells senseless destruction, as old Europe too well knows. Our little image here. Again, go check out the video if you haven't. It is also curious that a granite boulder found in 1880 at Green Lake, split in two, has an inscription with circles like a colander, and between the circles are engravings of canoes with Indians in them. Between the canoes are curious monsters with bony spines and a long tails with dragon-like heads. And a prehistoric mound at Cincinnati, there was found in 1796 a carving of a monster in the shape of an enormous bird with a long beak and an unknown species. The mastodon appears in a pictograph found in a cave at West Salem. Also, an unknown type of prehistoric animal with the head of a horse, but a skull larger than that of an elephant, was said by the Chicago Record in 1895 to have been found in California, along with gigantic remains of men and women. Along with what? Gigantic remains of men and women. The men, 9 feet tall, and the women, a foot less, so 8-footers, right? Just like in the mounds they're finding, right? Just like in all the newspaper reports we've read. And the anthropological excavational reports. In the same year, ancient ruins of a city were found on the Gila, or Willa, and there were signs that it had been shaken by a great earthquake. 9 feet under the surface, diggers unearthed an immense quantity of bone dust lying in a 70-foot-long trench. No clues to the mystery of this unknown race came to light. Another mastodon picture was found on high hills at Fort Ancient, near the Miami River, Ohio, close to very ancient pavements and stone altars. The pavement 6 feet below ground was around 4 feet wide and 400 yards long and running directly south. Near it was a huge boulder on the face of which the mastodon was cut. A mammoth is depicted attacking a man, and the lively and extremely ancient glyph appears on the Lenape stone. All right, the Lenape also depict is found on a farm near Doylestown, Buck County, Pennsylvania. One part of the stone was found in 1872, the other part in 1882. Savages are shown attacking a hairy mammoth on the edge of a forest. The monster, with tail erect and a great rage, is shown approaching the forest, in which can be seen wigwams standing between the trees. One of the plates of the famous Davenport prehistoric tablet found in Ohio, all right, and I've shown this, we have a lot of videos on this actually mentioning this and showing it, attracted the notice of Professor G. Sayforth, PhD, who in the Journal of the Davenport Academy of Natural Sciences, that's the exact report we read, scholarly, from 1876, said that besides a patriarch with a scepter, this is what they're finding in the inscription, guys. Listen, in his hand, and a sitting woman, this plate showed an ancient elephant and animals in cages. Not only that, they showed ancient Paleo-Hebrew and other ancient script, guys. We've got videos on this. Check it out, the Davenport tablet. It looked as if the animals had been encaged to be preserved for a future time. Another plate represented a great deluge, reminding one, as Pohano says in Della Universalita del Diluvio, Poligrafo di Verona, volume 11, page 145, of a carving of an ancient Mexican temple facade of the image of an immense ocean, in which there appears only one boat occupied by a man and a woman. All right, and I got that actually. This is a good one right here. All right, just 1 second, guys. Let me see if I can find that. That's a good one right there. Because I got the video. I'd like to show you that image though. Cooks. Cosks. Noah, there we go. So it's something like this. All right. So the story of Noah, right? In ancient America, floods and Noah's in America. That's the name of the video. Go check it out. Again, we got videos on all this, right? This is a good review. That's why I like reading some of these books, because we do like a lot of good reviews, a lot of different topics we've covered. All right. There's a carving of an ancient Mexican temple facade, the image of an immense ocean, which there appears only one boat occupied by a man and a woman. Plate one of the pictures of this Davenport tablet suggests the immense antiquity of the glyphs, for it shows an ancient American sacrifice offered to the sun and the moon. Is it really a sacrifice or a cremation? A cremation ceremony. Remember, that's what we read. That's what we were, saying. And 12-foot tall gods in stony heavens. 12-foot tall gods. The Titans, huh? With stars in between the sun and moon and zodiacal signs and scrolls. This ancient American mystery raised worship the 7 planets, dash the hijack, which are symbolized by the 7 stages of the famous ancient Babylonian Babel Tower, still to be seen today in the deserts of Iraq, dash the hijack, and 12 signs of the zodiac. Not only did it know monstrous animals, but it also knew that the earth was round and had the idea of the ancient Mexicans of an astronomical cycle of 52 years. All right, so the earth was round. What I see in that tablet, I see a firmament. That's what I see. I see a firmament. I don't see it all the way around. I don't see a ball spinning. Go check out the video so you guys can see what I'm talking about. For there is in the glyph between the belt of the zodiac and the earth a girdle divided into the 4 quadrants, each containing 13 signs. The chakras, there you go. It also exceedingly curious that on this same tablet there appears a number of letters of an unknown alphabet. There are 13 of these strange letters in one line and 19 in a second line. Folk in 1874, when this tablet was found, seemed very eager to pass it off as a hoax of the Latter-day Saints or Mormons, because I'm talking about it had Paleo-Hebrew, guys, is what I'm saying. In and for which assertion there is not a spark of truth. The Mormons didn't do that, nor any evidence. Inasmuch as one of the curious human figures has a rimless hat, while besides unidentifiable animals there is a figure of a mastodon without a trunk, one can only wonder that no gentleman has come forward to assert that both the Davenport tablet and the Easter Island colossi glyphs must be the work of the same hoaxer. All right, so let's see if I can just show you that real quick since we're live. All right, since we're live, there's a couple of different images of the Davenport. Let me see. So this is the Mound Builders and the Works and Relics by Stephen Fee. So there's a whole other book, the Davenport tablet. You guys see? I see a firmament, right? A Paleo-Hebrew and all this other stuff. So I don't know if it's on this side. It's probably on the other side that it has the elephant. Let me see if I got that as well. Yeah, don't. Let me see. Yeah, so I think the elephant's on the other side. But you see what I was saying? I see a firmament. What do you mean? What are you talking about spinning balls and stuff, all right? So like a cremation, like a ceremony going on, you see? This is what they were talking about. And there's something else on the other side. All right. Indeed, the American, hold on, let me get some water. Hope you guys enjoying the reading. So for me, it's been pretty interesting so far. I'm always ready to dodge the hijack. But in general, it's pretty interesting what we've been reading so far. Indeed, the American elephant must have attained a size far beyond that of the Asian and African elephant, right? Bigger than those of the modern times. Our lions, all that, everything was bigger here. Big and small, we had all kinds. In 1891, Professor Williston reported that an immense fossil elephant had been found in an arid region among sandhills in the western part of Kansas, all right, which was larger than any remains of any mammoth found in America, all right? And it's not just a mammoth. From the sole of the foot to the shoulder, the fossil had the height of 16 feet, and its length was proportionately great. All right, they don't want to teach you about this. They don't want to tell you they found an elephant in Kansas. North American Indian traditions are not silent on the subject of monsters of an antediluvian world, nor of giants. All right, this is where they get in their myths of the titans fighting these monsters, or the titans being the monsters, right? Of the latter, they say that old America was once peopled by giants who could with ease stride over wide rivers and out-top the tallest pine trees. Wow. Guys hear that? The giants found carved in stone in Easter Island certainly suggest that in those days, in the old land of Mu, of which this queer Valhalla formed the southern termination, giants of incredible stature existed. The ancient traditions of the Six Nations of the Oneida and the Tuscarora Indians told to David Cusick, the trapper, about the year 1820 have cryptic references to a mysterious foreign people who sailed in ships from a port unknown to the great island, North America, and were wrecked on the southern part of the great island. A few men got ashore with implements. They were covered in leathern bags, or wore a dress of leather or hides, and a big ox carried them to the summit of a high mountain. Does this mean some form of airship? Or the power of levitation, defying gravity, which ancient myths say the Atlantean higher caste possessed? All right, we possess that technology. Get what I'm saying? Hey, Lydia, shout out to you for being from rural western Kansas. They found an elephant in your backyard. It is added that the hawk seemed to threaten them, and that the men were forced to quit the mountain and come down to the plain, where they had to set to and build a small fort as protection against a furious monster. It is said that the monster later overran the country and destroyed them. The myths also say that a dragon or some form of great horned saurian appeared in Lake Ontario about 2,200 years before Columbus and caused many diseases, from which many folk died. But with the aid of thunderbolts, I hate the aid of thunderbolts, just like in the Greek myths. Listen, and that's from the Indian story, right? The monster was compelled to retire. An aerolite or blazing comet fell on a fort of the Indians on the St. Lawrence and destroyed them. A comet, huh? A dracon. Not long after, the northern nations, went to war till they had utterly destroyed themselves. It may be said that very modern wars of this sort were by no means unknown among the ancient Toltecs in ancient Mexico. The great island then became once more in the possession of fierce animals. Of course, it is not necessary to take too literally the chronology given in the myths. The myths then speak of the appearance of a cultural hero called the Heaven Holder. The name has a curious and probably significant suggestion of Atlas, the king of old Atlantis. Right? He has the world on his back, right? The Heaven Holder. This culture hero, who has all the appearance of having come from some great land sunken by Cataclysm, gave the Indians of the great island corn, beans, squashes, potatoes, and tobacco, and taught them the elements of civilization and morality. While this Atlas was absent from North America, there was an invasion of monsters of dragon form, who are called Konearao Nene, or flying heads. They came in the night and ate people. But the people foiled them by quitting their huts and hiding in other huts prepared for the purpose. But there was an old woman who lived at Onondaga and who was left alone in the hut. One evening, after the others deserted, she sat near the fire parching acorns, and when the monstrous head looked in at the door, it looked at the woman and was amazed to see her eat the coals of the fire. They were by this put to flight, and ever after the heads disappeared and were supposed to have been concealed in the earth. Wow, she ended up scaring them. A short time after, a monster of the deep, overran the country and forced the five families to take refuge in forts in their towns from the devouring monster. Atlas, or Heaven Holder, then reappeared and the monster retreated into the deep places of the lake. This monster of the deep was followed by a snake with the shape of a human head that opposed the passage between the Onondaga and the Goyogu, or Cayugo, cutting off all intercourse. The serpent sat in the principal path that led through the settlements. Finally, the best warriors of Onondaga attacked and killed him after a severe conflict. The lake serpent was often seen by the people, but a thunderbolt destroyed the serpent and forced the serpents to return to the deep. It is not easy to say whether by serpents is meant some invading nation who had for symbol or totem a snake. Oh, you meant people, huh? The myth may or may not import that the monster was routed by some electrical or ray weapon used by Atlas or Heaven Holder, aka Heaven Holder, in the Americas, right? It says here in quotes, in the reign of Atoharjo 11th, probably about 150 years before Columbus, Heaven Holder ceased to appear in bodily forms, but came as a prophet. And exactly as Montezuma had warned the Indians of the Pecos region and Quetzalcoatl had warned the ancient Mexicans, Heaven Holder in a dream warned the Five Nations that the whites or Europeans would cross the big waters, bring liquors, and buy up the red people's land. Further details in the Five Nations epic say the monster that invaded Lake Onondaga flew about with a long sticker and sucked people's blood. Wow. The warriors failed to expel the monster, but Heaven Holder attacked him as he flew about the fort Onondaga. The monster flew so rapidly that he could hardly keep sight of it, but after a few days the monster began to fail, and on the borders of the Great Lakes towards the sun setting and round the great country, he overlooked it and killed it near the Salt Lake, Onondaga, and from its blood came small mosquitoes. Oh man, pest. Until around 1885, the monster tracks and those of this atlas were shown near Brighton, south of Syracuse, New York. It is added that the tracks were often renewed by Indians. The tracks were bird-like, 20 inches long and extended for 20 rods. He was slain at Centerville, northeast of Syracuse. The Tuscaroras used to point out a curious stone on their reservations where they said Holder of the Heavens rested and smoked in the chase. He took a break and smoked, you know. They showed a depression where he reclined and a hollow made by his arm in rising. Also a hole burnt where he emptied his pipe. Wow. Another Onondaga story tells of two of these monsters, one on the Seneca River above Cross Lake and another at Montezuma, where the combined forces of the Onondagas and Cayugos destroyed them. The name Montezuma is curious in this connection. On the banks of the Ohio River, in the days of Ototarjo VI, perhaps 650 years before Columbus came, this date too must not be taken literally, the Indians had another contact with a giant saurian. It says here, a small party of Indians left the fort Kiandaniik, or Tontawanta plains on the warpath and camped on the Ohio's banks. They ran out of food and sought game. A certain warrior found a hollow tree where he supposed was a bear. One man climbed the tree and put fire to it, when out came a furious lizard, grasped the man and jumped into the tree hollow. There was a grumbling noise and the young ones devoured the man. The terrified warriors retired, but one warrior stayed by the tree. The monster chased and killed all the warriors. Then he came back and chased the man who had stayed by the tree. The man fled along the trail till he met Holder of the Heavens, who told him to make fire and collect sticks. Holder of the Heavens changed into a lion and fought the great monster, and the warrior hooked up the severed flesh bitten off the lizard and threw it into the fire so that it might not unite. The protector vanished from sight. The chronology is all haywire, but making all allowance for the naivety and the mythopoetic tendencies of primitive races, It seems that we may say that the remote ancestors of the North American Indians had their fierce encounters with monstrous animals, all right? This was real history. It's just being told in mythology. And saurians or dracons in antediluvian and post-diluvian America, okay? Post-diluvian America. The mammoth appears in American myth as well as upon the petroglyphs and pictographs of the caves and rocks. Cusick tells a curious story of the Oneida Indians about an encounter their ancestors had with a mammoth called Big Quisquis. This monster invaded settlements south of Lake Ontario, and in a fury pushed down houses and made a general hell raising. The people were forced to flee the monster. Warriors tried to stop him, but failed. Then a certain chief warrior collected men from several towns and fought a severe battle, till at last the monster retired. But the people were not left long in peace, for Big Elk, probably a mammoth, came in a fury and invaded the town, killed many folk till more men assembled, and after a furious battle killed the monster. On the evidence given in a collection of Indian tales by Miss A.E. Smith, it would seem that a race of Pygmies, listen to this, Pygmies, hunted these giant mammals. We hear that a sick warrior, left by a salt lake beyond the Allegheny, saw 3 Pygmies come and lie in ambush for these great animals, which came out of the ground. They killed 2 buffaloes and fed the warriors, who told the story around the campfire when he returned. It is the fact that round this lake have been found by Indians many large animals killed by the Pygmies, who may or may not be identical with the Eskimo who, in the Miocene Age or before the Ice Age, came as far south as Nevada, where the men of the South drove them back. All right. Hey guys, we just did a video on the pygmy and the bones, all the mass graves of pygmies they found near mounds in North America. All right. You see? The Tungus and Ostiaks Siberian tribes seem to share with these North American Indian tribes the notion that the mammoth and mastodon lived underground. Wow, just like the movies, right? Ice Age underground, huh? Isbrand Ides, who traveled from Moscow to China in 1692, started this myth of the mammoth that by reason of severe climate lives continually underground. Lives continually underground, all right? You hear that? He tells us that the heathen of Takuti, Tungusi, and Ostiakia say that these monsters continually go back and forth under the earth. If the monster comes so near the surface as to smell or see the air, he at once dies. This, they say, is the reason why so many of them are found on the high banks where they come out of the ground. The infidels, heathen Siberians, never see these beasts. The Russians told me that they thought the mammoths were elephants, drowned in the flood, and akin to Job's behemoth, who is caught with his own eyes. Ha! In old China, one humorous sage even said that earthquake need no longer be an insoluble problem, for they were caused by the mammoth burrowing underground. If we can accept the evidence of some curious brass tablets found at Kinterbrook, Pike County, Illinois, the mastodon was domesticated and milked as a cow till the 3rd century AD. Listen, wow, we got so much to pursue, right? To further research, like these individual little cases, right? Like this tablet, huh? That was found in Kinterbrook, Pike County. I gotta get my eyes on that. I don't think we've mentioned that before. Or maybe we have. President Jefferson in his notes on Virginia, written at the end of the 18th century, mentions a Mr. Stanley captured by the Indians at the mouth of the Tennessee and carried westward beyond the Missouri, as saying that the Indians asserted that both mammoth and mastodon still lived in the North America. They described them so that they seemed like elephants. All right, they still lived in North America. All right, and then they put them in the World's Fairs and then the zoos, and then they said they brought them from Africa and all these places. Now they were still here. They described them so that they seemed like elephants. Here, Charlevoix, Jesuit missioner in La Nouvelle France from Canada, in 1744 says he was told by the Indians a tradition of a great elk beside whom others seemed like ants. All right, so the story of great elks, guys, is literally about elephants. that they were calling. He has legs so high that 8 feet of snow do not embarrass him. His skin is proof against all sorts of weapons, and he has a sort of arm that comes out of his shoulder and which he uses as we do ours. This seems to fit the appearance of the mammoth, or of the mastodon. Ohio Indians told Mather that mastodons were at one time abundant. They fed on the boughs of a kind of lime tree and leant against it to doze or sleep, as they did not lie down. The Indians of Louisiana called a creek Carrion Crow Creek because they said that in the time of their fathers, a mastodon died in one of these creeks and a great number of crows flocked to feed on its carcass. You guys hear that? A mastodon skeleton was found on the spot indicated by the Indians. Wow. So their fathers saw that. They were still alive. Tribes in the Northwest Territory of Canada actually said that their ancestors built lake dwellings on piles like those in Switzerland, just like the ones in Switzerland, but these are much older, remember? To protect themselves against mastodons or mammoths, which ravaged the country in the long ago. People were with them, basically. The Peace River Indians, like the Suo-Golami, have traditions of the mastodon, and they are very widely separated Indians. Captain C. Crogon took down from bands of Iroquois and Wyandot Indians traditions about a monster called the Great Buffalo, which seems the same as the father of oxen, of William Walker. All right, they were talking about mammoths, Indian agent and identical with either mammoth or mastodon. Ohio, like the extremely ancient stone avenues of Avebury in Wiltshire, England, shows remains of very ancient enclosures associated with water courts. All right, we got videos on that. Water courts, just like the Celts. These ancient water courts, both in England and America, beyond any doubt enshrine memories of a great deluge. No animal might drink of the ancient springs and streams that ran near these queer works in Ohio, and it is very significant that images of the tortoise or turtle, which North American Indian lore always associate with a great deluge, was carved on very ancient vessels kept in a crevice or alcove of the wall of the spring close to these ancient works. I theorize that these Wabash glyphs were associated with the great cataclysm that wiped out ancient American civilization, say, around 12,000 BC. Refugees who took shelter in this strange cave may have felt the urge to perpetuate themselves, their way of life, their dress, and their ideas so that posterity in a far later age might see them as they were in the days before the great cataclysm, and wonder at what had been. How else shall we explain the ancient coins with unknown hieroglyphs, not infrequently found at the bottom or in the bore of American wells, hundreds of feet deep? All right, again, there sounds the words of the old hymn. Time, like an ever-rolling stream, bears all its sons away. They fly forgotten as their dream dies at the opening day. All right. And you know what, guys? We're gonna end it right there. And like I said, guys, there's a lot left in this chapter. It's actually a lot of pages left. So I might split it into two videos, okay? Because it's very long. I don't want to do a long video, and I want people to be able to catch up. We've already been here about an hour and 40 minutes. But so far, it's been a lot of more great reading, more drop than hijack, right? That's why I like reading this book, and I wanted to get back to it. I hope you guys enjoyed the reading. And again, let me just go back. This was chapter 6. You know, hopefully I don't even think we reached half. We might have reached more than half, maybe. But again, this was the book Secret Cities of All South America. You know, we got the playlist ready for you in case you missed the previous drop or readings on this source, right? Make sure to catch up. You can just go to my playlist tab on my channel, which is called Secret Cities of Ancient South America. All right, and we got today's video in there. Get the whole drop. Every episode is really good, guys. If you enjoyed this reading today, you'll enjoy these as well. Pretty good book. All right. So again, I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. So far, we're gonna continue definitely. Maybe even tomorrow, pick it up where we left off, right? All right. Or even tonight. Maybe see how I get in the mood. Maybe I pre-record it tonight and just have it ready for you tomorrow. You know, we'll see for sure. But I do want to say I appreciate you guys for tuning in, taking the time out of your day, out of your Thursday, whatever you were doing and being here with me, especially people who were live. I appreciate you guys very much. Shout out to all my longtime followers, right? You've been here for years. Sometimes you're in the background. You don't always comment, but I know you're there. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Shout out to my moderators, all right? Shout out to my Patreon supporters, all my new channel members. More and more content, more and more drop, more and more books, more and more investigation. The investigation continues, right? We're surfing the wave in real time, always. Most high over everything. Most high over everything. You already know. Natural by Laws. Check out Natural by Laws channel, guys. Check out Cimarron's channel. They're in the live chat right now, so you can click on their channel. Anybody that came through with a channel, make sure to support them. All right. Shout out to everybody out there and anybody that donated. I appreciate you guys very much. Shout out to Olmec 12. We're gonna go out with one of his instrumentals. It's almost becoming like the anthem. I kind of like it a lot. It's called Conmeo. Conmeo. I really like the beat. Appreciate it. Hey, shout out to everybody who came through. Shout out to everybody. Pat yourself in the back. Yo, I appreciate you guys for real. Shout out to everybody that came through. This was a pretty good reading. Take it as how you like. Some people might not think it's real. They might, this is all myth or whatever, man. Pull out the babies, starts the hijacks. Shout out again to Olmi for the beat, the outro we're going out with. Hey, Joe, what do you know? Hit me up, Yo, hey, just Aya. Big up yourself, Aya. Salute, J9, thank you. Everybody that came through, Dev D, yeah. Ali Chikta, Okla, yeah. Everybody. Nitzia, thank you again for the donation. Cindy, thank you for coming through, and your mom, and everybody else, Cosmic Run Rose. Hey, thanks for letting us know what you're doing while I was reading. Appreciate anybody that came through and chatted. Can't see all the names. I hope you liked it. We're going to continue this chapter on another installment. Much love and respect. All right. Pura vida, mi gente. Pura vida. Wow.